Welcome back, accounting boffins. All right, what are we busy with? Reconciliations. Which reconciliation are we doing? We're doing the creditors reconciliation. Which one? Because remember, in the creditors reconciliation, you have two. One is the internal one, right? What does that one entail? We are reconciling, if we are doing the internal one, you are reconciling your creditors control account with your creditors list. It's an internal creditors recon, right? So this means that you have your creditors control in your general ledger, right? And you have a creditors ledger with individual creditors, right? So this is what you're reconciling. Your creditors control account with your creditors list. Then you get the external one where you are reconciling. What are you reconciling here? Your creditors ledger account with the creditors statement that you are receiving. Okay, so this clearly indicates to you that if we're looking at our reconciliation process, this is the external one. What do we mean by the external one? We're reconciling the creditors ledger where we have an account for a particular creditor with the statement that we are receiving from that creditor. So clearly you must understand which reconciliation process are you doing. Okay, then, so this is the one that we're referring to, where the creditors ledger account, the specific creditors are listed, and obviously this means that if you have 5 creditors, then actually you're going to be doing 5 creditors recons. Why? You need a reconciliation for each creditor because you're going to be receiving statements from 5 creditors, and then therefore you will then reconcile each one with the statement that you are receiving. Okay, so let's look at a question now. And it says here, Laddu Traders buys goods on credit from Anami suppliers. The information relates to August 2020. Okay, firstly identify who are we, right? We are Laddu Traders. Who are we buying from? We are buying from Anami suppliers. So that's our creditor. Okay, once you've ascertained that, now you look at the next part of the question. The question says, use a table to indicate how the balances will change when preparing the creditors reconciliation. Again, the next question that you ask yourself is, what reconciliation are you preparing? An external recon, whereby you're reconciling the statement that you are receiving from your creditor with the creditor's account as it appears in your ledger. And it says here, indicate figures as well as a plus for increase and a minus for a decrease. Okay, that's the instruction of the question. It says here, the account of Anami suppliers, that's our creditor. In our creditors ledger, we are Laddu Traders. On the 31st of August, according to our records, we are owing them an amount of 95,160. Credit indicating it's a creditor. However, if you look at their records, what are they saying? The statement from Anami suppliers on the 25th of August 2020 says that we owe them an amount of 143,460, but notice it shows you a debit balance. Okay, now this is important, guys. Our books has a credit balance because it's a creditor, but their books will have a debit balance because they will say that Laddu Traders owes us money. So we become their debtors. We're saying we owe money to Anami suppliers, and therefore they are our creditors. Can you see why? Our books indicates a credit balance and their books indicates a debit balance. If you understand that, I promise you half your battle is won. Okay, now what are the challenges? An invoice of 26,000 Rand received from Anami suppliers was recorded correctly by Laddu Traders. The statement reflects it as 20,600. Okay. Firstly, ascertain the fact. In accounting, guys, you are allowed to be mad. Talk to yourself and say, right, who has made the error? Watch. It's correct in the books, in our books, in Laddu Traders' books. However, the statement, which is from Anami suppliers, shows is at 20,600. What's the difference? Let's look at the difference and see here. Clearly you can see that the correct amount was 26,000. They reflected it as 20,600. That means they reflected an amount too little, right? The correct amount was how much? 26,000. There we go. They reflected it as 20,600. Clearly you can see there was an amount that was short on the side of the statement, an amount of 5,400. Where did we get the 5,400 from? If you take your 26,000 minus your 20,600. Clearly. So they have undercast the invoice and entered it on their side as 20,600, whereas it should have been entered as 26,000 Rand. So clearly the error, number one, is made by the supplier. So where do we correct it? In the statement. And what do? We add an amount of 5,400 because they have undercasted the invoice. They've made an entry with amount too little, as a result of which we now make an entry with the difference. Okay, so number one is sorted. Let's go to number two. Laddu Traders had correctly recorded a discount of 820 for an early payment. This did not appear on the statement from Anami suppliers. Right, step number one, identify. Who has made the error? We correctly recorded the discount in our books. They have not reflected the discount on their side, indicating the statement has an error and needs to be corrected. Let's do that. So here we go. There's my number two. There was a discount of 820 Rand. Obviously, a discount would mean that we are owing them less. So, because they have omitted to deduct the discount, we now go in and we reduce the amount that's due to them by taking off the discount of 820 Rand. Okay, so that was number two. That was error number two, or discrepancy number two, that we have now sorted out. The next one we have, the statement reflects interest of 1,240 on an overdue balance, right? Anami suppliers acknowledged that that was an error that they had made. So what happens here? They have included in our statement an interest charge of 1,240. Clearly, they've said that this is an error. They've acknowledged that that error has been made. So obviously, we now need to correct it. Firstly, where's the error? The error is in the statement. What have they done? They've charged us interest of 1,240, which must now be deducted. As you can see, we don't owe them that interest because they've acknowledged the error and therefore it needs to be subtracted. So there's discrepancy number three, in the statement, as a result of which we now reduce the statement by 1,240 because that amount is not due to them. They've acknowledged their error. Next one. A debit note for 1,520 issued to Amanda Limited was incorrectly recorded in the account of Anami suppliers by Laddu Traders. Okay, now, important guys, RTFQ. Read the full question. Who's made the mistake? We have. What have we done? Let's look at it again. A debit note, right, issued to Amanda Limited was incorrectly recorded in the account of Anami Suppliers by Laddu Traders. So clearly you can see that we have made an error, right? So the error is with us in the creditors ledger. Okay, what have we done? Firstly, a debit note indicates that we have returned goods to the supplier. But in this case, it was returned to Amanda Suppliers. Check here. We returned goods to Amanda Limited. What did we do? We entered into the books of Anami Suppliers incorrectly, meaning therefore that we reduced Amani Suppliers account by 1,520. As a result of which, we now have to say incorrect, error made on our side. How are we going to fix it? By increasing the amount that we took off incorrectly. Right. If these goods were in fact returned to Anami Suppliers, then definitely this entry would be correct. But the fact that we returned the goods to Amanda Limited, meaning that was another creditor. So it went to the wrong creditor's account. Who made the mistake? Who made the error? We did. What are we going to do? Correct it in our records. That means fix up the creditor's ledger. And how do we do that? By adding an amount of 1,520, which we incorrectly subtracted in the first place. Right, next one. A credit note for 2,440 received from Anami Suppliers for goods returned was incorrectly recorded as an invoice by Laddu Traders. Once again, first question that you ask yourself, who has made the error? Right, what happened here? They've acknowledged a return of goods by issuing a credit note. There we go. How much? 2,440. We've received the credit note, but what did we do? We then recorded that credit note as an invoice. Okay? So clearly you can see that if we're looking at the 2,440 here, watch what happened. We recorded it as an invoice, meaning we increased the amount, whereas it was to be an amount that had to be deducted in the first place. So the question arises now, if we just subtract minus 2,440, just the one component, are we then solving the problem? Certainly not. Why not? Because if we only enter the amount once, the 2,440, we're basically cancelling out the error. But we also have to record the credit note that we have received, and therefore you can see that this amount has to be doubled, and there we go. It's your 2,440 plus your 2,440, added together will give you an amount of 4,880. In this way here, you can see we're reducing the amount that we owe to Anami Suppliers with the amount of 4,880. Right, next one. An invoice of 47,500 was reflected on the statement from Anami Suppliers but was not recorded by Laddu Traders. Clearly, the error is on our side. We have not reflected this invoice, and therefore we now need to reflect it. Therefore, coming to number 6, we say add 47,500, which is the amount that it was an invoice that we had omitted to record. We now record it. Okay, next one. A payment of 7,500 by Laddu Traders on the 27th of August was recorded in the creditor's ledger account. Now watch, this was on the 27th of August. However, if you look back at the information here, you will find that you have, let's just get this date here so you can see what the statement date was the 25th of August. So clearly, this amount will not be reflected on the statement, and therefore we now have to correct it. Here we go. Here we are. Can you see? A payment of 7,500 made on the 27th of August. As a result, it's not appearing on the statement. Therefore, we now go into our statement and we say, fine, minus the 7,500. This was for that payment which we have made, which is not reflected on the statement, obviously because of a timing difference. You've received the statement on the 25th, but you've made a payment thereafter on the 27th. Okay, what do we now do? Now we go through the process. Take your 143,460, add 5,400, minus 820, minus 1240, minus 75. What do you get? 139,300. Okay, take your statement, your amount as per your creditors ledger, take that opening balance, add the 1520 minus 4,880 plus 47,500, and what do you get? 139,300. What have we done here? This is the important part. What have we done? We have reconciled the statement which showed that we were owing Anami suppliers an amount of 143,460, right? According to our records, we were owing them 95,160. What have we done? We've reconciled the amount that both should reflect is an amount of 139,300. We have reconciled the statement from our creditor with our creditor's ledger as their account appears in our creditor's ledger. So guys, important to summarize, make sure you identify who has made the error, then do the necessary entry to correct the error, and eventually you will find at the end of the month these two figures will reconcile. Okay? Let's take a quick break and we'll see you in a jiffy.